When Jessica and Amos take the bus, murder hitches a ride. Battle of the Network shows. Join Rick Brooks and Mike Kogel as they explore the TV of the 70s and 80s through hand-picked episodes of their favorite and not-so-favorite series.
Welcome to another Battle of the Network show, and this week we have murder on our minds.
We do, even more so than usual. Well, never mind that.
You don't need to know about the internal. I am Mike, and I'm here with Rick.
Hey, everybody.
And we're going to be talking about classic 80s and 90s show, Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah, it was on a long time, wasn't it?
Man, 12 seasons, 264 episodes.
And then some TV movies.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
What a long history the show had.
Yeah, of course, a vehicle for Angela Lansbury.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it made her, as I saw her say in an interview before the show, she didn't have a Q rating or anything. You know, she had a movie career and, of course, a big Broadway stage career.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like this is the thing that then made her
a household
very much,
name.
Yes, a household name.
I think that's fair to say.
She plays Jessica Fletcher, the mystery writer who seems to find murder wherever she goes and solve them. And through that, you get a bevy of fun guest stars.
Yes.
Definitely an anthology series. I also heard her refer to it as that.
Yes. Would it be fair to put this in the cozy mystery tradition?
I think so. And the aging actor mystery tradition.
Yeah.
Which, you know, in some ways you could think started with her, but of course didn't. You know, I don't know how far back it goes, but Barnaby Jones certainly.
Right.
Your guy, Dick Powell, he sort of do something along that line.
Like as an aging?
Yeah. Or when he was in TV, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had like an anthology series.
Yeah.
I would think back to even Miss Marple, which I think Angela Lansbury was going to play Miss Marple at one point or something.
Yeah.
I think maybe it was even proposed that she do like a regular thing and that it fell through or something. So kind of in the tradition maybe of Agatha Christie too.
Yeah,
kind of thing where
I was just thinking of TV shows.
Oh, right,
where,
okay.
You know.
Yeah. Well, they're like the Snoop sisters in the 1970s was like two like old ladies, I think, that solved crimes as a team.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then of course after this you had your Matlock and your Diagnosis Murder.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a show that people think of even now when they think of CBS.
I think so, yeah. It's fair to say. Some nights I think I wake up and think that it's still on CBS.
Right.
It's hard to believe that it's not.
And it to me, it fits the mold of how CBS operates still today, which is well-made shows that aren't looking for critical praise.
No.
And they're comfortable shows, and they do really well.
Yeah, they're not particularly challenging as far as form,
right?
Or breaking molds, but they're, like you said, they're made very solidly and well done for what they're trying to do.
And they're just not in the zeitgeist.
No, our 2 to 11-year-old demographic would not be really into this show necessarily, but our older audience, and again in this interview I was watching, she was talking about the demographics and that it was a family show, which is how I remember, like it was a show that our whole family could watch, but that it did have a lot of younger adults watching it too, and not just old people. But like the advertisers, their point of view was it was just for old people. The CBS, their internal information said otherwise, and that the advertisers just never got it. Yeah.
As far as that went.
Well, back in the 1980s, you could get away with more. There wasn't so much of an emphasis on like 18 to 49-year-olds as there is now. Yeah. And total viewers was more important. And Murder, She Wrote was like a hugely popular show and very, very consistent.
Yeah.
It was like a top 10 show most of the time.
Right.
And drawing in, just large audiences, which is good enough at the time.
Yeah. And on after 60 Minutes.
Yeah. And I think I kind of looked into that. I was kind of curious, but I think it seems like some years it actually outperformed 60 Minutes a little bit. Like, I don't think, unlike some other shows, I don't think it was necessarily riding the coattails of 60 Minutes, but CBS had that great lineup. I mean, you have 60 Minutes and Murder, She Wrote, and the other networks we've talked before, Sunday night, there wasn't always a lot going on.
You're right.
And also CBS would have the natural lead-in, I want to mention, with NFL football.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have Pat Summerall and John Madden, and Pat Summerall famously would enunciate, coming up after football, 60 Minutes followed by Murder, She Wrote, and there's a thing, it became a thing, like John Madden said, where he would try to like elongate that pause as long as he could and see how long he could get away with it. And I always enjoyed that. So I kind of associate Murder, She Wrote with Pat Summerall because he would say that it was coming up later on CBS.
Yeah, okay. Do you think he was watching it back in the hotel room?
No, I think he was watching it maybe at the hotel bar.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think in his hotel room. And that kind of gets to one thing now. I think one of the inspirations for this was Murder, She Said, which I think was like an Agatha Christie thing. And we've had things, but to me, like, the comma always bothered me.
No, it bothers me too.
It does? Okay, because it's if you have the comma there, it's like murder, she wrote. But to me, the emphasis was always on murder. Like, do you ever hear people say murder, she wrote? Angela Lansbury would say it sometimes. But if you talk to people about the show, it's murder, she wrote.
Yeah.
The comma, what's the comma doing in there?
I don't know. Yeah, if it were in quotation marks and then it should have the comma.
Right.
But it's not in quotation marks.
It's like murder, she wrote, as in she wrote about murder.
Yeah.
Like, the comma is a stylistic touch that is not needed and is counterproductive in my opinion. And it probably is the reason I never watched the show, because the comma annoyed me so much. Well, maybe not. But I didn't watch the show. I always thought of it as a grandmother's show. Mm-hmm. Nothing against grandmothers. I love them. I love my grandmothers. Right. But unlike Golden Girls, where I had like evidence of young people watching the show, I never knew anybody my age that was watching Murder, She Wrote. I mean, I believe that it happens now, and I can see why it would be a thing. But at the time, no, I didn't know anybody watching Murder, She Wrote.
Well, I watched it.
Oh, well, I didn't know you at the time.
No, that's true. Yeah, I watched it some. Yeah. Definitely I think it was because it was something that my parents enjoyed, so we could actually all be in the same room and watching it. Yeah. And, and then I got tired of it at some point. Right. Which is, to me, the problem with an anthology show or a show with a formula like that.
Definitely a big formula, yeah.
That at some point, okay, I know what's going on here. Right. Law and Order had the same thing. I enjoyed it for 3 or 4 years, and it's like, okay, I got it. And especially now, as an adult, I got more interested in character than plot, and then it's just not as interesting.
I can understand.
Once Tom Bosley left, it's like, I could go watch him solve murders on the Father Dowling mysteries.
Well, I mean, a couple things going. Like one, as far as like the whole comfortable show, this is the kind of show that it makes light of murder in the sense that it sort of normalizes it, and like it's not really that big a deal. It's murder without like the menace so much.
Are you saying the Reverend John Hurt would not approve of this show?
That's a good callback, yes. As a matter of fact, I forgot the other thing going on there, but it did sort of it treated murder almost in a light way. It's not like a really serious show, but the other thing is, like, I think as a kid, I wouldn't have the appreciation for all the guest stars that I do now. Yeah. Like, you and I can watch this and be like, oh, look, and like just, get excited at seeing certain names in the cast that at the time I wouldn't have really cared about. But that's kind of one of the joys of watching a show like this to somebody that's watched a lot of television, is you see these familiar names pop up, and sometimes in unfamiliar roles, and sometimes being pretty much kind of how you'd expect them to be, as we'll probably see in this episode. But I think that's another big thing that is more appealing towards older viewers than necessarily younger viewers wouldn't necessarily get a kick out of seeing some of these people.
Yeah, although Love Boat had the same thing. Yeah. I mean, it has that same quality.
Right, that's true.
My feeling, based on kind of looking at IMDb and watching a handful of episodes, is that any episode you turn on is going to have at least one good guest star, if not multiple.
And I think I didn't realize that, or I didn't make the connection. I sort of made sense, but the one thing is, like, the Love Boat is like a really ensemble show. Yeah. In addition to the guest stars, and I thought of it more as a guest star-driven show. I never really thought of that at Murder, She Wrote. And maybe I should have, but also it's unique in the sense that there aren't too many shows that have a female lead, and that's pretty much it. I mean, it's driven by Angela Lansbury. Yeah. And really, how many shows are there like that, period? I mean, that she doesn't have a male partner or a team that she's working with. Right. It's kind of unique in that. I think we were talking about the theme song, as we often do off air. We'll talk about these shows' theme songs. Yeah. But you made a very salient point that she's pretty much the only top billed, like, before the name. It's just her. Yeah. She's clearly the star of the show. And the more I think about it, that's kind of unique, isn't it? And that's probably one thing that appealed to her.
Yeah, I think so.
Making the leap to television.
Like, she was talking about that she wanted to move into TV because she was getting older and, wanted some stability, or to move away from, theaters. That's a lot of heavy lifting there. The first scripts she was sent were all just like maid roles and her housekeepers and things. And she's like, I'm not the biggest star in the world, but
yeah.
she was a big enough star on Broadway to keep plays on stage and get 10% of the cut. And,
wow.
And she'd been a movie star or movie actress, I guess.
Boy, it's kind of a shame. Could she have been like the Drummond's housekeeper on Different Strokes, maybe?
That might have been one.
She could have replaced Edna Garrett.
Oh, God.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah. So she said, she obviously turned all those down and got her agents to convey that was kind of disrespectful. And she got 2 scripts. One was a Norman Lear sitcom with Charles Durning.
Wow.
And then this, and she was interested in both, and she had a meeting with Norman Lear and Charles Durning and just didn't feel like she was the right fit for that, whatever role that was. And then went and had a meeting with the Murder, She Wrote people and knew that's what of the 2, that's what she would want to do. And she saw enough there. She liked the character.
And they had a track record.
Yeah,
I don't know much about the Peter Fisher, but Levinson and Link had worked on Mannix, Columbo, and I think Ellery Queen.
Okay.
So they were big mystery. They had cred as mystery writers and developing successful mystery TV shows. Yeah. So.
And she felt in the room that they liked her, and that was it.
Yeah.
So, and then she almost left after the 5th season because part of it was they were taking 7 days to film, and she wanted another day. It was just too strenuous at her age, and managed to convince her Universal to do that, and they gave her a bunch of money.
Yeah, well, that helped too.
Yeah, and she was honest about it. She said, well, it's nice money.
Yeah.
And then stayed with it another 7 years. So.
Yeah. I think I read too that they were, at the time, they sort of experimented at one point with having different characters and trying to make it so that she wasn't carrying the show so much, and it didn't really work.
Yeah.
And then she wound up coming back, and the show is built around her as much as ever, I guess. But
right.
And she kept getting older.
That's true.
But those checks kept getting bigger.
Yeah.
And the show was still popular.
And in the later season, she was like running the show too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, as well she should. You wouldn't have a show without her.
No, and she said she made it a little more worldly and like literally had her traveling the world, but made the point it was really just a Universal plot. But that she got her out of Maine a little bit.
Now, I'm not enough a Murder, She Wrote expert to compare the quality of the show at that point.
No.
I do know I learned that she moved to New York and became a criminology professor, which seems ridiculous.
Uh-huh.
And it seems like maybe one of those things where maybe sometimes the star being in charge isn't necessarily good for the show. But, but hey, if you can keep this going for 260 episodes,
right,
good for you.
It does at least, it's more likely people are going to get murdered in New York than Cabot Cove, Maine.
Right. And you have also the setting, an excuse to introduce all kinds of guest stars, probably.
Yeah.
Different people from different walks of life, different characters.
Yeah.
So Murder, She Wrote was, I never watched it really at all. I don't think I ever sat down and watched a whole episode until now. But it was on Netflix for years. And I got to say, I don't want to give away too much, but I kind of regret not watching it when it was on Netflix because they had all 12 seasons, I believe. And now Prime Video has only the first 5 seasons. And this is the kind of show where you really want to go look at the episode descriptions, look at the guest stars, and kind of cherry pick.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, for some reason, only the first 5 seasons are available right now on Prime Video.
Maybe we'll get more, I hope.
Yeah.
Because I read about one that I want to go in the last season. I read about it on Wikipedia.
Yeah. Well,
but CBS moved it to compete with Friends.
Oh, yes.
And there's an episode called Buds.
Yes.
Where like one of the friends murders, is a.
I totally want to see that too.
Yeah.
And that was the only time the ratings ever slipped. Apparently, is when they moved it to must see TV and took it away. I mean, not just it was such a fixture on Sunday nights.
Right.
That seems like a really dumb move, and maybe
it does
really backhandedly trying to just end the show.
And it seems like you're not going to draw away the biggest part of the audience of Friends, and maybe some Mad About You people, but not for Yeah, because it's a younger audience. Although Angela and Lansbury said they had some younger audience, but it just seems like counter. I guess that's the idea. It's counter programming, but I don't know if the traditional CBS audience was watching Friends. Maybe they were. Obviously, tons of people were. So it wasn't all 20-year-olds.
To be fair, many people, it's well known, were emulating Angela Lansbury's hairstyle, and it did become a big thing for a while. Like she had the it hairdo, and people would just say, give me the Jessica.
Right. Yeah.
So they probably thought, well, it's the same deal. We'll just move the show to Thursday and take that trendy audience and those tastemakers.
Especially men. Men were really into that. I don't know.
I think, didn't Paul McCartney for a while have the Jessica?
I think he still does.
I mean, but really though, I mean, can you imagine like, and traditionally like, what's one of the big advertisers on Thursday nights is like movie studios. And would that have been part of the equation? I think, oh, we'll get some of this movie studio money because they're going to want to line up in front of Murder, She Wrote, in front of people that probably aren't going to want to see a movie the first weekend or at all. We're making generalizations again, but yes, I would love to see that episode, and that would seem to be the rare misstep, or the rare step back in the ratings for the Murder, She Wrote. Yeah. Moving it up on Thursday nights, because not just that the audience following, but just seemed totally wrong. And I'll bet a lot of the audience probably got upset. You moved it off Sunday after 10 years or whatever. Yeah. It's crazy.
But the episodes I've watched, I have really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I've been entertained by every single episode I've watched for many ways. And sometimes the plots are more intricate than others, but there's always something entertaining about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about the plot because I think I'm not... I like mysteries, but I'm not the type of watcher or reader who's trying to solve it. So I don't know how well they're laid out in terms of letting you play along and put the puzzle together. Like the one we're going to talk about, I don't really think did that part well. I mean, it made sense when it was put together, but I just kind of went along with it, which is fine for me. Yeah. Like I don't need to be the detective.
In doing some research for the show, I noticed one thing that kept coming up was people praising the show for, quote, playing fair with the viewers. Now, I think there's a couple different ways you can do that, though. You can cheat the audience by presenting, like having the murderer be a character that's not introduced until the last thing. Yeah. You can lay out the clues and have them in a subtle way and stuff. Or you can kind of do kind of a middle thing where you don't cheat, but you maybe withhold some things that maybe... I think Murder, She Wrote, it seems like they kind of play it both ways. Like I think some of the big clues she mentions, maybe not all of them, but a couple of them with a lingering camera glance here and there, a Jessica reaction here or there, they do sort of like emphasize it. Yeah. And granted, they also have some red herrings that they'll have in any thing of this nature. So I agree with you. My girlfriend, I think she's pretty good at spotting these things. She's a definite Clue Club member, I think. But I'm sort of like watching it and kind of laughing along and like just, picking the first person to be funny is, or I still like the theory that Jessica's doing all these crimes.
I do like that. And I gave you my alternate one, which is her nephew, who really only appeared in Grady. 10 episodes. Yeah. But that he was doing them all.
Yes, I will go along with that. I actually thought the first episode, I thought he was guilty. And there's something shifty about him. And I still think there kind of is.
Well, he did start her writing career. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know if that continuity held up.
Right.
I guess it does because the killer in that comes back in a later season.
Well, and that reminds me, this show should be particularly interesting for you because you're a writer. Yeah. And you can see like a fellow writer in action and kind of compare her to how you do things. So
yeah, I probably don't do things the way she does. No, that's my guess. My guess is that she, just based on the kinds of stories she's writing and the way she observes things and stuff, and just what I said about even being a reader, that she plans it all out. Mm-hmm. And if she is a serial killer, obviously, right. But she plans ahead and then writes. Mm-hmm. Whereas I kind of tend to follow it where it goes and fix it.
Yeah, she probably does some extensive outlining.
Yeah, which might explain how she writes so many books.
Yeah, she's prolific.
Now, so from what I can tell from sources online, she in the 12 years of the show, which may or may not take place over more time, I don't know, wrote 41 books. Wow. So that's a little over 3 a year. Okay. That seems like a little much to me. Now I don't, but I think some mystery writers will do like 2 a year.
Yeah, for like a genre type author, that's not
certainly one a
year.
As
crazy as
1 a year is definitely realistic. I think 2 a year, especially maybe if they have a couple characters.
Yeah, right.
And I don't know if there's ever any sense of what actually happens in her books or if she has regular characters series. So.
Yeah, I don't know.
And she's retired, so, or at least for large portions of the show she is. Yes. And she's getting lots of research done, in the field. So it's plausible.
41, it's a pretty big number, though. It does kind of make you wonder if she's using ghostwriters or something like that. Like kind of getting into James Patterson territory where she's submitting outlines and
somebody's filling out.
And they've got like a team writing as Jessica Fletcher.
I can't imagine.
I would hate to think that. Yeah. Let me put it this way. I would be more upset if she did that than if I found out that she really was a serial killer. Yeah. For all 12 seasons. I'd be more upset to find out that she ghostwrote, or she had a ghostwriter.
Yeah, I think so. And now, so in the pilot, she had written this book and just for fun, and she's a widow and filling time, I guess, and was an English teacher. And Grady, without her knowledge, had his girlfriend who worked for a publisher submit it to the publisher, and they wanted to publish it. And there's no sense of, like, he tells her that, and then, like, the next scene, the book is out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's no indication that, of time there. Mm-hmm. So I accept that, it took 6 months or something. We don't know. No. Because I do know it takes much longer than a lot of times than you would think. Like a year or something between acceptance and publication. Right. But that's her first book, and she's not even sure she's going to do more. But then she's like this instant celebrity, which is straining credibility, I think. Even in the mid-'80s, when there were still celebrity writers. I don't think any of them were mystery writers. And like I read a biography of Ross MacDonald not that long ago, the detective writer. And it took him, 15 years before he got attention. Yeah. And even then, at the time, like in the 70s, mystery writers were still not just looked down on by sort of the literati, but, the public just sort of saw it as fluff. Yeah. So for her to have, she's going on talk shows and having her advertisements plastered on walls in New York with her face on it, and, that seems a little much to me.
Like a real promotional blitz.
Yes. Now, Grady's girlfriend, Kit Donovan, is really good at that PR, but... Yeah. So that's the first season, which we're in the first season, and by the time of this episode and the one before it, has multiple books out. Yeah. And seems to have had a career for a while. So I don't know if they just changed that, or there was some time jump or something, or they just ignored reality.
She certainly wouldn't be able to sustain that kind of promotional machine.
No.
Over the course of multiple books, that many books a year. But I guess maybe the idea is she becomes a brand name where you don't do publicity. The book comes out and people buy it right away.
Right. She's at the front of the bookstore.
Yeah. But she is like a very successful writer in this world.
And so the episode before this, she's trotting off to the Mediterranean to visit her artist friend, Cesar Romero, who's just seems like, a TV artist.
Right.
This artist everyone's buying for his paintings. But it already seems like her world has expanded far beyond just being...
Yeah. Cabot Cove, Maine. Substitute teacher or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can go with that. It's just funny.
Right.
I think the error was in the pilot making that her first book, rather than just having her already be this.
Yeah, yeah.
But it sort of let her be a fish out of water and stuff.
Right. Well, speaking of water, there's a lot of water in this episode.
Yes, it's raining.
We're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Should we get into Murder Takes a Bus, or is it Murder Takes the Bus? I think I wrote down the bus. Murder Takes...
I think it's the...
Murder Takes the Bus, which is the 19th episode of the first season, aired on March 17th, 1985. And I guess, speaking of Agatha Christie, I guess it's sort of like a little bit of an homage to Murder on the Orient Express, which is a famous story.
Yeah, they do get off the bus.
Yeah.
But a lot of... in any of these, of course, a lot of people have motives. And, but...
Multiple people. It would have been kind of interesting to try to have them stay on the bus the whole time and have excuses for people to be moving around.
Yeah.
On a bus that's on a trip to, where are they going? Portland, Maine.
Portland, Maine, yeah.
Yeah.
So Lori is from Maine, right?
Yeah.
Does she have any thoughts on the various Maine accents?
As I recall, the older gentleman in this, she said, had the best accent. And he was the only one, I think he said he was not from Maine.
He was from Rhode Island.
Yeah, he was from Rhode Island. She said, actually, he had the best Maine accent. The one we were trying to figure out was the Boz, Tom Bosley, what he's doing.
I think he's doing a Maine accent.
Because it seemed to vary a little bit.
Yeah. I remember watching enough of it as a kid, even then, being just amused. We were trying to say, Amos Tupper. I'm Chef Amos Tupper.
Yeah, Amos Tupper.
Like the Pepperidge Farm. But yeah, he does seem to slip in. And then I saw something about his character going back to Kentucky.
Back to Kentucky.
To be with his daughter or something, like back to Kentucky.
Okay.
He doesn't sound like he's from Kentucky.
So,
he's into like the history of the area and stuff. I think he's trying to do a Maine accent.
Okay.
And, William Wyndham, who's not in this one, the doctor, the town doctor, I believe he's trying to do something too.
Okay. Yeah, we kind of, it seemed kind of like a hybrid of, so I think we joked these from southern Maine.
Yeah.
So that makes sense, but yeah, other than that, nothing really stood out, I don't think.
Yeah.
But with a cast like this,
Right.
You don't need accents, am I right?
You're right. This is a nice cast of guest stars, many of them returning to Battle of the Network shows.
That's right.
So there's Linda Blair from The Exorcist, of course.
Right.
Is playing Jane Pascal. Terrence Knox, who we talked about in our St. Elsewhere episode, but was not on it.
Right.
But he's the guy that played the rapist on St. Elsewhere, and so, of course, anytime he appeared menacing in this, I assumed the worst.
Of course, yeah, understand.
Although I believe, this is 1984?
Yeah, this is 1985.
85.
March 1985.
He might have still been on St. Elsewhere at the time.
Yeah, okay, this is early in 1985, so maybe...
yeah, I'd have to check the dates. Larry Linville from MASH, of course, as Kent Radford, and Rue McClanahan as his wife Miriam. Deep cut here, Albert Salmi.
Yeah, the great Albert Salmi returning.
From Run Joe Run.
Yeah.
As Captain Joe Downing, fishing captain. Don Stroud, I don't really know who he is. It's Carrie Drayson. Mills Watson, who was best known as Perkins on Sheriff Lobo and BJ and the Bear, is a restaurant owner named Ralph. And David Wayne is Cyrus Leffingwell, the best name of the year so far, I think.
Yes, and that's the guy with
yes,
the accent.
And not David Wayne from not the comedy director.
Oh, yes, David Wayne.
Yeah, right.
Who I believe was the David Wayne that was in the Mad Hatter on Batman, I think.
Ah, yeah.
And was in like a lot of other stuff in the 70s and 60s, I guess. But
yeah,
distinguished gentleman, yes.
Tom Bosley, as we mentioned.
The Boz.
John Davis Chandler as Stoner, who's
Stoner. Like, whoa, Jessica. You mean to tell me there's been a murder on the bus? Unfortunately, he doesn't talk like that.
No, he's the victim. I don't know if he says anything.
A
little bit to the bus driver, right?
Yes, one very brief exchange.
Yeah, and Michael Constantine is the bus driver.
Yes, Michael Constantine.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and lots and lots of other things. So a good cast.
And Room 222.
Oh, yeah.
Facebook group favorite.
Yeah. He
was the
obviously
principal.
The principal. Yes. Okay. And all of these people except for Ralph are on the bus.
I think that covers it.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize Ralph. I got to say,
he's a little more svelte.
But I really enjoyed his performance.
He was good.
I liked him, and I meant to make a note to see what else he was in, but I didn't make the connection at the time. So I'm glad you pointed that out.
A lot of guest shots, 18, like that. Maybe he was a universal player.
Yeah, could be.
So the setup here is that Jessica and Amos are supposed to go to the main sheriff's conference in Portland, but his car is broke down, so they have to take the bus. I don't know.
I guess they can't.
Things are weird in Cabot Cove.
Yeah, I guess they can't use like an official.
Jessica doesn't need a car, I guess, maybe because it's a small town.
Yeah.
But it was his official car. That's the one they showed on the tow truck.
Oh, well then, so they don't own a car, or maybe he's too cheap to take his own car.
I guess maybe
he doesn't want to put all those miles from Cabot Cove to Portland, Maine.
You can't rent a car.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. It gets him on the bus.
Right. It does, yeah.
And so Jessica's going to give a speech there which suggests she has this ongoing reputation.
Yeah.
That she would be invited there. And he's excited about the food, which seems to be an ongoing trait of his.
Right.
And there's going to be a drawing for a big TV.
Yeah.
He's really got his heart set on it.
Yeah. And I guess presumably he's going to take it back on the bus on the way back.
Yeah.
He'll have to take a big TV.
Then he'll be okay with renting a U-Haul or something.
Yeah, maybe,
Yeah. And as they're waiting for the bus, we meet Cyrus, and he says there's a storm coming. And then the bus shows up, and we learn that the driver is not the normal driver for this route.
It's noted.
I would call that a clue.
Yeah.
Possibly. Once they get on Rue McClanahan, Miriam recognizes Jessica because she's a librarian. She's very excited about that. And then they get on the road. And there definitely is a storm.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And I really enjoyed the bus driving music. Like this very intense, almost like Bernard Herrmann kind of.
Yeah, like he had like he was carrying like a load of dynamite in the back or something like that.
Right. And he's very nervous about it, which, I mean, it is bad conditions, but but sometimes he seems like he's acting like the character has never driven a bus before.
Right.
But it's pounding music.
Yeah, act like you've been there before.
And along the way, they stop at a bus stop outside a prison and pick up a guy, Stoner. A lot of looks and things when he gets on them.
Yeah.
People seem worried. Jessica's, of course, she can't help it. She's she's a busybody.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah. She's taking in all the details.
Yeah. She's all up in everybody's business. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's observing.
Observing, yes. Which, frankly, it usually comes in handy.
Yeah.
So.
If you're going to be a busybody. No, if you're going to be a writer.
If you're going to be a writer, or if you're going to solve murders.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
For incompetent police.
Yeah.
So she notices he has this, like a mystery book, and that's the only thing that stood out to me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But they get stopped because there's power lines down, and just get told, the road might be flooding soon. They're going along, and there's a car that's been following them, and somehow it ends up ahead of them and like stuck or wrecked, and so the driver has to get on the bus and ride with them, and then they have trouble, and they stop at Ralph's restaurant, which is called the Cozy Corner Kitchen. Mm-hmm. And they all go inside, and except for Terrence Knox's character, Stephen. He stays on the bus, and he and his wife have an exchange. Mm-hmm. She wants him to let go of something. And then we have different people going off to different places in the building. Yeah. Oh, and the guy who got on the bus from the car had a gun.
Yes. That was, Jessica noticed that.
Yes. So he goes to the bathroom. The sea captain, Joe, wants a drink. Larry Linville's just being snooty about things. Mm-hmm. And he and his wife, they seem to have like some tension.
Yeah, they do a little like mild bickering. And
yes. He accuses her of, he offers some sort of, he's a college professor, and he says something about statistics. And she's like, his head is cluttered with trivia. And he says, better clutter than an empty attic.
Yeah. Oh.
A little.
That was a burn.
Yeah. But it seems like they have some money issues too.
Yeah.
And Cyrus Leffingwell offers some of his sage advice, which he got from someone else. Only a fool grows ulcers over something he can't control.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty good advice.
Yeah, that was well said.
Yeah. And Jessica notices through the window that Steve is arguing with the guy from the prison on the bus. But then he comes in, Steve, and then he goes out to make a phone call. And she goes out to the bus to look for her book and finds Stoner, the guy from the prison, dead.
Yes.
Screwdriver sticking out of his neck.
Yep.
What a way to go.
Yeah. And gotta involve Amos Tupper.
Yes.
Which
he's got to take temporary control of the situation.
Yeah. He was kind of like casual. He's like, well, I guess I gotta,
Yeah.
guess I gotta get involved.
Yeah.
Didn't seem like he was really enthusiastic about it, but
he's still more worried about missing that conference.
Yeah, missing the food and the conference and
potato soup.
Yeah. Oh.
Fruit cup. Mm-hmm. And that big TV.
Yeah.
He's just got his heart set on it.
But he does his job.
Yeah. I didn't mean to say that he's incompetent.
You kind of did, but. So what did you mean to say?
In other episodes, the police are incompetent.
Yeah. I mean, he's at least well-meaning, and
I would say he's probably well-meaning and good at the basics of small-town policing.
At least by this episode, he's not threatened by Jessica.
Right.
In fact, he's willing to take her help, which is better than a lot of other law enforcement officials I've seen in this show.
Yeah, and I think he's probably really just like, oh, please.
Yeah.
He's good with parking tickets and those sorts of things, and.
Yes.
Probably
parking tickets, yeah.
Like, little spats and things you would get in a small town. He's good at
minor vandalism.
Keeping the peace.
Right.
But murderers.
Yeah.
That's a lot. So, this is Jessica reveals that she knows the guy was an ex-con because he was wearing a brand new suit and brand new shoes, things like that. And then they find his wallet, which confirms that, and nothing's missing from that, but his suitcase and the book. And right now they just know his suitcase is missing. And later they realize his coat and the book are missing too. Phone lines are dead, and we learn that this guy was part of a big bank robbery, like in the 70s.
Years ago, yeah.
Yes. The Danvers Trust Company robbery. And then we find out a little bit more about each of these characters and what they were doing at the time. So Larry Linville's character was playing a video game called Roadhog. Because he enjoys it, and the statistics.
Yeah, fascinated by like the probabilities
and Cyrus was in the gift shop and heard the game from there, and he's a retired mailman. And Steve and Jane are on the way to Portland, and he claims that he was just talking to him. He wasn't arguing.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see about that.
Yeah, not how it looked to me, but
yeah,
that's what he says.
Joe's a fishing captain, and he was in the bar. And the guy with the gun, Drayson, was drying his clothes in the bathroom and says he has the gun because he's a jewelry salesman. And we also learned that the weapon was the bus driver's screwdriver, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Who else would have a screwdriver? It's a long screwdriver.
It is, yeah.
And this was, it was good. We learned things about them. We learned their names.
Yes. You've got a reason for them to all be in the same space together.
Yeah. So at this point, who were suspects for you, do you think? Again, I wasn't really trying to solve it. But,
it be Albert Salmi. Arr.
Yeah.
I was in the bar drinking a screwdriver, matey. Arr. I think he seemed to be like the one that they were positioning as the obvious suspect. So, of course, I'd go with him.
Yeah, okay.
Did you ever consider Ralph a suspect?
I didn't consider Ralph a suspect because that would have been too random.
Yeah.
And he's just so genial.
Yeah.
And he, Rue McClanahan thought maybe he poisoned the coffee, so he just drank some right in front of her.
Yeah. So it's like, well, he drank that coffee. He still could have poisoned your coffee.
Oh, that's true.
But that was good enough for her, so.
I really wanted her to be the...
Well, she acts kind of squirrely throughout the whole episode.
She does act squirrely, but then there were enough times where she clearly was just sitting at a table and things happened. Although at some point it seemed like maybe there was an accomplice.
Yeah.
So at that point I thought, maybe the two of them.
Yeah. The couple, the married couple.
But I didn't take them too seriously. Although frankly the person it turned out to be I didn't really.
Yeah. And I think we're going to get into that, right? So if you're interested in seeing the episode, are we going to reveal?
I think we are.
I think it's a clever. I actually like the ending. So
yeah.
So if you want to see the episode, watch the episode and then listen to us if you don't want to find out who the murderer is.
Correct.
I thought it also seemed like the Albert Salmi seemed to be shady for some reason. Yeah. Terrence Knox, it seemed too obvious, like they were trying to build him up too much.
Right.
So I thought there had to be some kind of twist to it.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't necessarily lead to him, although it seemed like his behavior and the fact that we saw him on the bus would point to him.
Yeah. I would have enjoyed if, some other people too. Cyrus, maybe.
Yeah. He was the only one that seemed to be, and Linda Blair's pregnant character, it would have been kind of interesting to have her be the murderer, but I was ruling her out pretty quickly. Because I think she was there the whole time.
But Jessica confronts Steve that, no, she does think they were arguing, and they found a photo in the guy's wallet that has him and a woman and a guy who looks like Terrence Knox with a mustache.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't have to tell you anything. But then he leaves, he storms off, and his wife sort of like, well, that's his dad, and he died in the bank robbery. He was one of the robbers, and he died. So, he's still a suspect at this point, I would say. I mean, she says that there's no way he would have done that, but,
Yeah, that doesn't...
He's got reason.
That doesn't exonerate him.
No. And Stoner and another robbery got away, and the money was never recovered. And then Jessica does some snooping. She learns that once you put a quarter in the game, it makes noise, whether you're playing it or not. And there's like a door right there that you could go out, and there are like a couple other doors in the back.
Yeah.
And she and Amos go on the bus to look around, and he notices that the damper switch was on.
Yeah.
And he was a bus driver for a year.
Yeah.
So he knows there's something fishy about that.
I can kind of see that. That was one of the more credible parts of the episode. I can see Tom Bosley as a bus driver. That seems to fit.
Yeah,
I like that.
Even after the explanation of the switch, I don't understand it, but
yeah,
that's fine. I don't need to.
It seem like a big deal.
Yeah. And then outside, Jessica finds the suitcase spilled on the ground, and she's kind of going through it, but it's still pouring rain. And then Steve shows up and looks menacing, but then isn't. And finally explains everything to her. And he's like, oh, yeah, we fought, but he was just, like a wreck of a man. And he realized that there's no point in worrying about the past.
Right.
And it turns out there was a newspaper article, so all these people know who are invested in this, that he was getting out of prison that day.
Yeah. It was a famous crime
at a particular time on a particular bus line.
Yes.
And
that was a very thorough article in the paper, wasn't it?
Yeah. He'll be sitting outside.
Yeah.
And one of the details is that a 16-year-old girl died in it. Her name was Julie Gibbons, and the driver's name is Ben Gibbons. Mm-hmm. They didn't do that clue they put out there.
Yeah.
Like they made sure to focus on his name thing on the bus. And Amos said he knew because of that damper switch.
Yeah.
I believe he's famous for jumping to conclusions. But, So Ben, Michael Constantine, he confesses. It was very early in the show for this. He said he traded routes to do it, and he staged a breakdown, and then he saw the guy sleeping, and it seemed so unfair to him that he just stabbed him with a screwdriver. Well, good old Jessica. She's like, but there was no blood on the screwdriver, so he was already dead.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, but I know I did. oh, she's got to spoil the party.
Yeah.
The confession party.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they got to keep going. And they're all still, people are nervous and things, and phones are out.
Fortunately, Ralph's still making coffee, and I think they showed him making sandwiches in the back at one point.
Yeah, and of course he's got his homemade apple pie.
And the help is gone. He's let the help go home, so he's running everything.
Yeah.
Ralph was the real hero of this episode, in my opinion.
I think so.
Keeping everybody fed.
And calm.
Yeah, and with a roof over their heads.
Yeah. He's a good man, that Ralph.
He is.
His son also has a CB in the office. Of course, he doesn't know how to operate. Apparently, Amos doesn't know how to operate. There's a Drayson guy volunteers, and he goes there, and he leaves his suitcase of jewelry samples, and that raises Jessica's suspicions. And she goes to talk to him, and he says, okay, I'm an investigator for the bank.
Yeah.
Hoping to get the money back. So that's clear enough. And then they go back on the bus, and Jessica finds the book in the code. Because Stoner was killed in a different seat than he was sitting in. And she comes in with the book, and then that's when Miriam is being very squirrely.
Yes.
But this book. And the lights go out, and Ralph and Amos go to turn on the generator. Someone rushes into the back, and then there's a gunshot, and the lights come back on, and Drayson's wounded in the arm. The CB is smashed, the gun's missing, the game's afoot.
Yes.
And then while they're putting a bandage on his arm, the captain ties a knot.
Yes, and I think he says something about being on a ship, you learn to something or other, and Jessica's like, oh, good work.
Yes, but gives an extra look.
Yeah.
Angela Lansbury is very good at nonverbal acting.
Yes. It's very, very entertaining watching her facial expressions.
Yeah. A lot of it has to do with moving her head. Kind of right. Glancing over things.
Mm-hmm. Raising an eyebrow every now and then.
Yes, but you have to imagine Jessica's good at poker.
Yeah,
I mean, she's giving signs to us, but she's keeping cataloging a lot of stuff.
Yeah, she doesn't just blurt out stuff when it happens. Cataloging is a great word for it. She takes mental notes.
Never, aha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So the gun actually went off by accident when he got attacked from behind. But then during this, the book goes missing. Mm-hmm. What foul person could steal a book?
Ugh, that's a heinous crime. That's worse than the murder, really.
Yeah, there must be something about it, that book. We know the dust jacket is in tatters, but the inside of the book is in pretty good condition.
Yeah.
And it's rare.
It's a first edition?
Yes. First edition, the only mystery this writer ever wrote.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means he was a writer of other kinds of books or it's the only book he wrote.
Yeah.
But either way.
It's coveted.
Yes. And Jessica figures out very quickly that Miriam stole the book because she would know the value, which apparently is possibly $2,000. Mm-hmm. They need money.
And she kind of rationalized it a little bit, well, he's dead.
He's dead.
He doesn't need it. Finders, keepers, something like that.
Seems okay.
Yeah.
It seems like she could have it was kind of a clue, I guess, evidence. But
yeah.
Otherwise, maybe hey, could I have that?
Just ask for it.
Yeah.
That'd been funny if Amos had said that. If you just asked for it, I would have given it to you.
Yeah.
I didn't need that.
But it turns out there's a key, a safety deposit box key in the spine.
Which Jessica cleverly manipulates the book in order to find it.
Yep. And then she tells the captain that he's not a sea captain.
Yeah.
Because he used a granny knot instead of a square knot.
And let me tell you something, Mike. You don't throw that accusation out there unless you know, because one of the worst things you can do to a sea captain is accuse him of not being a real sea captain.
The brass of her to do that. No. I mean, he had a sea captain hat on.
Yeah, I know.
And a pea coat.
Right. Right away.
He was gruff.
Yeah. I mean, I never would have guessed he was not a sea captain.
No.
I certainly wouldn't have gone, public with that kind of claim, but yeah, she was pretty sure, though.
And she's right. Of course.
As many people do around Jessica, you notice that they confess pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Once she, whether they're in the presence of law enforcement or not, they pretty much give everything away as soon as she suggests that they're guilty of something.
And he hid the gun. It was very clever of him in Amos's coat pocket. So he pulls it out, and But then the wind blows the door open, and Amos and Steve subdue him. They charge him, of course. I believe you pointed out another episode. That's what you do, right?
Yes. If
someone has a gun.
If someone has a gun pointed at you, what you do is you charge them directly.
You know who else said that? At least in the movie The Irishman, Jimmy Hoffa says that.
Oh, he does?
Yes. If someone has a gun, you charge.
Ah.
But if they have a knife, you run.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
Based on years of TV and movies, that makes perfect sense. If someone has a gun, you charge. If someone has a knife, you run.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. That's good. Well, fortunately, the captain, he didn't have like a fish hook or anything.
No.
Which maybe is another giveaway.
But
since he wasn't carrying a fish hook.
I like somewhere in there Steve says he's got a ridiculous costume.
Yeah.
He's got a fish hook and an eye patch and a peg leg.
Not fooling anybody with that ridiculous
and he's and by sea captain hat, it's not even like the skipper's hat. It's the blue hat, the little bird, like George R.R. Martin wears. It's the Greek sailor's cap. It's not.
Well, it was good enough to fool me. I'll say that.
I think maybe even when he was on the bus, was that guy some kind of like sailor or something?
Yeah. What's he doing riding the bus and not taking a boat to Portland, Maine?
And he points out that he went to talk to Stoner and found him dead. Mm-hmm. And he got the gun and did some of this just to protect his own self-interest, because he knew if the cops showed up, they would be able to work it out.
Yeah.
But he also points out that it would be foolish for him to kill someone if they're stuck there because of that. Right.
Like, yeah. And, it makes a certain bit of sense, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. And Jessica believes him, so that means...
That pretty much solves it right there, yeah.
Right.
He's free.
But then this leads us around to the solution of this case. The bus driver was the killer.
He was, yes.
That was
after a
surprise.
Deliberately planted, quote unquote, false confession that was actually a real confession.
Yeah, it's very smart.
That was interesting. Yeah, you don't see that too often. No. I really did like that solution.
So he strangled him, and Jessica realizes she had seen grease on the guy's collar. Now that's something I didn't notice. Maybe it was there. But
I think there was a camera shot of like lingering a little bit on that. I think.
Yeah.
Like it was brief, but
I know there close up. Like when she's talking, there is.
Yeah, but, yeah. I think there was something there.
Remember. And she points out that if the stabbing was from behind, and so you wouldn't have grabbed a collar when you're doing that. And she should have noticed it before. But his false confession kind of steered her away from that. Yeah. But
it's kind of funny, like the way she's like, "You were right, Amos," And
yeah.
He's like, "I was." I mean, oh yeah, I was.
And that's he seems remorseful. He didn't want to kill. He didn't intend to kill him either. But the guy was just totally blasé about.
Yeah, he was like
his daughter
about it, and not giving him anything. So
right, he was just cold, mean, cold.
Yeah.
And it's the next morning and it's sunny. Most of the people are getting back on the bus. Jessica and Amos somehow now have a car. I don't quite understand. I forget, but they're not going.
Yeah.
I guess because the thing is over.
They missed it, yeah.
Yeah, there's no point. And she thinks Ben might get an insanity plea. Defense. Temporary insanity.
Yeah, I thought that was weird.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing, that was an odd thing to throw in there.
I guess it just wanted to make us feel better. Because he was kind of a sympathetic character.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was like they kind of wanted you to feel some sympathy for him. Yeah. It was just kind of an odd line, but I think you're right. They were trying to add to that sympathy, but
yeah,
I didn't really buy it.
Because a lot of the episodes, it's more the killer's sort of just greedy or something.
Right. I mean, I'm no legal expert, but it seems to me it would be more difficult to construct an insanity defense with all the stuff he did afterwards to cover up and just deceive everyone from what he actually did and how the crime was actually committed. Yeah. I mean, that shows some kind of, you got to be pretty rational thinking to do that kind of stuff. Right. To come up with such an elaborate ruse to throw the scent off yourself.
Yeah. To even know that he could come up with it in the first place.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have. I don't think it is just walking around common knowledge that if someone's dead and you stab them, that they won't bleed.
Right. And he got on this route in the first place. I mean, he definitely had deliberate intent to confront the guy.
Yes.
I thought temporary insanity is not necessarily you sort of plan to threaten or kill the guy and you wind up going too far. Right. Or you wind up going too far. You were just going to hurt him or yell at him and you killed him. Does that really work like that? I don't know.
It's like a crime of passion.
Yeah. Well,
I know that's usually applied to other things, but
we're sitting here going back and forth. Jessica would know more than we do. She knows everything.
Certainly.
So
yes, and it's Maine. Yeah, they might have weird.
That's true.
Their own law system or something.
Quite right.
The lobster code or something.
Yes.
And then we get the nice kicker. This is sort of the making light in a way that if they had only been there, Jessica would have won the TV.
Yeah, it's something like he reveals like the winning number or something, and she assumes it's him.
Yeah.
He's like, well, that's the thing. It was your ticket or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And she just does a take at the end.
Yes.
So I guess like this police association or whatever. Do you think that you do not have to be you do have to be present to win, or do you think they just like got really happy because he makes it sound like maybe they just like kept the prize and like cheaped out because she wasn't there to collect it?
No, I think.
Or they drew somebody else's.
Yes, I think it's like a kind of thing where you have to be there to claim the prize.
Right, but how would they have her ticket when she never showed up there too?
Like, I think it maybe was just a drawing. I don't remember anything
drawing
about
of
tickets.
Names. Okay,
yeah.
Of like everybody who'd signed up to be there.
Yeah. Also, some blowhard gave a speech in her place.
Right.
Which nobody needs.
Yeah.
And Amos never got his potato soup.
No.
Unless Ralph made some for him.
Yeah, maybe he did as a little consolation prize. Yeah. Ralph knows to keep on the good side of the local authorities.
Exactly.
All over the state.
Yeah. He's hoping people, recommend him.
Yeah.
You need to stop
the cozy corner kitchen.
Yeah.
Although kind of unfortunate initials.
Thank you.
Starting everything with a K.
Yeah.
Maybe not a good idea.
No, and the sign was white and red. Too.
Yeah. Ralph, we got to have a talk with you about that.
Right. Yeah.
But you make a pretty good coffee, and he's working hard. What I liked about Ralph was that he was working hard, but didn't really show the strain of it. He stayed calm and wasn't complaining. I mean, he made a few like exasperated things, like, "Boy, I wish I hadn't let the help go," or whatever. But he wasn't like constantly griping about having to stay open and serve everybody food all night and drink. So
I wonder if the bus, even in nice weather, stops there sometimes. Just for a bathroom break or something.
Yeah.
I mean, he seemed not bothered when an entire busload of people. Granted, it was like maybe half full, but it was still however many people we named here. A dozen people walked in all at once.
Right, and he was kind of surprised though because because the roads were out, but not the fact it was a big bus. But
yeah,
I very much enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, and it's
pretty cool.
We were looking around at various lists, and this one was always near the top.
Yeah, it seems to be well regarded by fans of the show, and I can see why.
Yeah,
it has a little something different with the story. It's a good cast. Jessica being Jessica, pretty much everything you'd want, I think.
I think so. Yeah. Again, I enjoyed all the episodes I watched. I might have only watched. I watched the pilot, which is a 2-parter at least.
Yeah, that's true.
And the Cesar Romero one, and this. Oh, another one we talked about. There's a poisoning in a restaurant. The home fires.
Yes. I didn't see that one, but I watched those. There's one where she's the forewoman of a jury. That's a good one. And
I bet.
One where in a rare dual role, she plays her English cousin Emma. And I guess Emma shows up in another episode too. So.
Oh, good.
So yeah, I think
the prison one.
That's right.
Was she like teaching in the prison or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
She was. She was teaching a class on writing, I guess. At least she wasn't teaching them criminology.
Yeah.
But that's a good one with a good cast and an all female episode. I think. I don't think there's any men at all in the episode.
Nice.
Which is distinctive. So yeah, I mean, I think I told you the other day that I was going through the episode descriptions, and almost every one I was like, oh, that actually sounds kind of interesting. That sounds kind of interesting. So I think I might actually watch more of these.
I could see watching it, more, especially just the comfort thing. Like, you just want to watch something for 45 minutes. It's
a good one to kick back and just enjoy. It's not going to be very challenging, although, and as I told you, like I don't like the teasers at the beginning. And for me, it's not. I don't care about having plot elements given away, but I like having the guest stars revealed with the names in the credits. I don't want teases ahead of time.
Right.
Especially if I see a plot that's interesting. Like, well, I don't care who's in this. This is a good story. Then I don't want to know who's in it. I just want to see the guest starring, and then be excited as I was when I watched the pilot. So,
would you like if they did something in the opening credits? Like,
yes, I would.
No, I'm trying to remember. Does Love Boat do that during the song, or is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Like with the and they have the. I think there's a lot of times there's like a prelude kind of, and they'll start showing the cast.
Right. Yeah.
The guest cast. Yeah, they could definitely do that. I just don't want to see them actually acting in the thing before you see the names and the reveals. That to me is that's kind of cheap. And I don't need a teaser. I know that it's going to be a quality hour of entertainment.
Yeah.
Just get rid of that teaser.
Right.
A recap is acceptable. It's a 2-parter, but teasers in general, I'm not into those.
I hear you. Yeah. It is exciting because the pilot you told me had a lot of good guest stars, and I didn't look them up.
Yeah.
Seeing those names pop up.
Right.
Especially like a couple of them right in a row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm impressed by Murder, She Wrote. I think I've underestimated it.
Yeah.
But you can't deny, and I think Angela Lansbury got like a ridiculous number of Emmy nominations, but never won, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah.
I'm not sure offhand who was winning every year against her, but I mean, was it the likes of people from Dynasty, or who was winning all those female acting awards? I should look that up. It wasn't Angela Lansbury.
No.
Despite really carrying this show for years.
But she was on, and it was on such a long time that many shows came and went.
Yeah.
Probably won Emmys.
That's right, yeah. So there must have been more than one culprit that was taking awards from her.
Yeah, but she certainly owns this role.
She does, yeah. And I didn't see the interview you were referring to, but kind of reading some other things. I mean, she seems quite eager to point out that she's not Jessica Fletcher. And really, she doesn't seem like Jessica Fletcher. And one thing I really enjoyed was that when they proposed a reboot with Octavia Spencer, and she was like totally against it.
Yeah.
She said she didn't want them to do it.
Right.
I love that. I wish more actors would just say, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
Maybe they get yelled at sometimes, but hey, at least you're being honest.
And she was sort of like, why call it Murder, She Wrote?
Yeah, she's right.
Just do it a new thing.
Yeah.
And then it didn't work anyway.
Yeah, she was totally right. As always, Jessica Fletcher or Angela Lansbury. She's not Jessica Fletcher.
She seemed, so these were a couple of those Academy interviews. And she seemed just very proud of the show and, of what they did.
Yeah, it's good.
And it feels like it was a little edgier than its reputation.
And there's a whole line of novels, real life novels.
Yeah.
Other things that have spun off. The whole show is available on DVD, which is kind of surprisingly, but I think you can get the whole 12 seasons worth at a pretty reasonable price, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, and she also talked about just that it had a very loyal audience. So they're online. There was a list of Jessica's novels. These are not the ones that exist in the real world. So I'm not going to read all 41 of these, of course.
Okay.
Her original one though, The Corpse Danced at Midnight.
That's a good one.
Followed by Dirge for a Dead Dachshund.
I'm not so fond of that one.
No. The Umbrella Murders.
Okay. All right.
Murder Comes to Maine. Ooh. Calvin Canterbury's Revenge. Sanitarium of Death. The Mystery of the Mutilated Minion. The Stain on the Stairs. I don't like that.
No, that's not.
Goodbye, Charlie.
What? Goodbye, Charlie.
Yeah. The Corpse That Wasn't There.
I'm surprised that one hasn't already been used by a famous author.
Ooh. This midnight thing seems to be a recurring thing too. The Messengers at Midnight, also Murder at Midnight.
Pretty basic.
The Corpse Swam by Moonlight. The Corpse at Vespers. Stone Cold Dead on Wall Street. The Case of Half a Murder.
I hope Jessica's prose is better than her titles because I'm not impressed. Maybe one or two of these are good, but the rest of them, not so much.
Ooh, this is the last one. All the Murderers.
All the Murderers.
I don't know. That could be like a thing, like where all the murderers come back to seek vengeance on the detective or something. Yeah,
that could be, but I guess we'll never know. But
no.
Well, I'm sure she's a talented writer, but I prefer Jessica solving crimes and where the local authorities cannot.
Yes.
Jessica's there.
That's right. All right. So if we were to do another show, like old actor mystery show, what would we do next? Matlock was already on, right? Or it started in the 80s, right?
Yeah. Matlock would be eligible.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot of interest.
I don't see how, like a lot of those shows, like Matlock in the Heat of the Night, those NBC shows, they just don't seem as appealing to me as I don't know. Maybe there's just something about them. Like it seems like Matlock in particular seems like it should have been on CBS. Yeah. There's something like weird about that. So
In the Heat of the Night was good for a while.
Okay. Well, I could be surprised by like Matlock, maybe. Like Murder, She Wrote surprised me a little bit, but I don't know. I'm sure Andy Griffith is entertaining.
I'm sure it is.
But I don't remember them getting the quality of guest stars that Murder, She Wrote was getting.
No. A Diagnosis Murder just never.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
It's just not how I want to see Dick Van Dyke.
What about Father Dowling Mysteries?
I would actually, I watched that a little bit.
Okay.
Be curious to see that again.
And that's, is that why he left Murder, She Wrote? Is because
I think so.
He started on Father Dowling Mysteries?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, we can sit here and talk about it, but hey, listeners out there, let us know what you'd like us to cover.
Or Barnaby Jones.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
Or something that's not an old Columbo or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well we're missing Columbo. He's like perpetually middle-aged, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. Let us know and tell us on the Facebook group or just on our regular Facebook page. Mm-hmm. Give us some feedback to this episode and let us know if we should explore more mysteries.
Yes. All right. I don't have anything else.
No, I think it's all been said, written, done, murdered.
The case is closed.
This episode brought to you by the Maine Sheriff's Convention and its world-famous potato soup. This episode also brought to you by the Cozy Corner Kitchen. Coffee, pie, video games, a bar, and the perfect place to solve a murder. This episode also brought to you by the novels of J.B. Fletcher. She's got to be up to, 100 of those things by now? Join us next time for another exciting episode of Battle of the Network Shows. Learn more, leave feedback, and suggest future episodes at battleofthenetworkshows.com. Follow us on Twitter at BatNetShows, and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Battle of the Network Shows.